Captain Jake Morrison sat in his command chair aboard the U's Valiant, watching the stars drift past the bridge windows. It was another quiet day in the Outer Rim, the kind that made him wonder why Earth Command needed ships patrolling this empty space. The Vega system was 3 days behind them, and the next checkpoint was still a week away. "Captain, we're getting something strange on long-range sensors," said Amy Clark from her communications station. Her fingers moved quickly across the control panel, trying to clean up the signal. "It's very weak, but it doesn't match any known frequency in our database." Jake stood up and walked over to her station. Lisa Park, their navigator, looked up from her charts with interest. Ben Taylor, the chief engineer, stopped his routine systems check to listen. "Can you boost the signal?" Jake asked. Amy worked for several minutes, adjusting filters and amplifiers. Slowly, a sound emerged from the speakers. It was unlike anything they had heard before, a series of musical tones that seemed to carry deep emotion. Even without understanding the language, everyone on the bridge could hear the desperation in those alien voices. "It's a distress call," Amy said quietly. "I'm running it through the universal translator, but it's having trouble with the language structure." The computer's voice filled the bridge as it struggled to convert the alien words into English. "Help. Dying ... please ... don someone ... don sir. The harvest comes 17 worlds ... don. We are ... Jake felt his stomach drop. "The harvest? Did it say 17 worlds?" "Yes, sir." "The signal is coming from the Kepler 442 system. That's about 3 days away at maximum burn." Ben Taylor checked his engineering displays. "The ship can handle it, Captain. We've got full fuel and all systems are green." Jake thought for a moment. Protocol said he should report back to Earth Command immediately. But 3 days was a long time, and the signal was already fading. By the time a proper rescue fleet could be organized and sent, it might be too late. "Amy, can you get more of the message?" She worked at her console, pulling more words from the static. "They call themselves the Kalari. They're saying their whole civilization is under attack by something called the Harvest. They have no weapons, no military. They're just artists and teachers and farmers." Lisa Park pulled up star charts on her screen. "Captain, the Kepler 442 system has never been explored by humans. We don't know what's out there." "That's exactly why we need to investigate," Jake said. "Amy, transmit everything we have to the nearest fleet command. Tell them we're going to investigate and might need backup." "Sir, that's Admiral Walker's 5th Fleet. They're currently in the Proxima system. 6 days away if they leave immediately." Jake nodded. "Send the message. Ben, plot a course for maximum speed. We're going to help these people." The next 3 days passed slowly. The Valiant pushed through space at its highest safe speed, while Amy worked constantly to decode more of the alien signal. What they learned painted a terrifying picture. The Kalari were a peaceful species who had never known war. Their cities were filled with art and music. Their people spent their time creating beautiful things and exploring the mysteries of the universe. They had no armies, no weapons, no concept of organized violence. Then the harvest arrived. The alien signal described ships that were like nothing in human experience, massive vessels that seemed to absorb light itself, making them almost impossible to see against the darkness of space. They moved like predators, silent and deadly, appearing without warning to destroy everything in their path. "Captain, we're receiving new transmissions," Amy reported on the second day. "They're weaker now, but I can make out some words. The harvest ships they're strip mining the planet, taking everything valuable and killing everyone who gets in their way." Jake clenched his fists. "How many ships are we talking about?" "I count at least 12 separate sources. Each one is huge, maybe the size of a small moon." Ben Taylor looked up from his engineering station. "Captain, even if we had a full battle fleet, I don't know if we could take on 12 ships that size." "We'll figure something out," Jake said. "We can't just let an entire civilization die without trying to help." On the third day, they reached the edge of the Kepler 442 system. What they saw made everyone on the bridge fall silent. The planet That had once been the Kaleri homeworld was dying. Massive dark ships hung in orbit like vultures, their weapons turning entire continents into wasteland. The beautiful cities that Amy had heard described in the transmissions were now nothing but burning ruins. "My God," Lisa whispered. "Look at those ships." The harvest vessels were unlike anything in human databases. They seemed to bend light around them, making them hard to focus on. Their hulls were smooth and organic-looking, as if they had been grown rather than built. Each ship was easily 10 times larger than the Valiant. "Captain, I'm detecting massive energy signatures from those ships," Ben reported. "Whatever they're using for weapons, it's more powerful than anything we've got." Jake watched as one of the harvest ships fired a beam of energy at the planet's surface. Where it struck, the ground simply vanished, leaving a crater several miles wide. This wasn't just conquest, it was systematic destruction. "Amy, are you still getting signals from the surface?" "Yes, sir. Much weaker now, but they're still there. The survivors are hiding underground." Jake made his decision. "We're going in. Ben, bring us in quiet and low. Use the asteroid field to mask our approach. Amy, try to establish contact with the survivors." "Sir, if those ships detect us, double quote," Lisa began. "They won't," Jake said with more confidence than he felt. "We're going to save as many as we can." The Valiant crept through the system, using every trick in the book to avoid detection. The harvest ships seemed focused on their systematic destruction of the planet, methodically reducing each continent to rubble before moving on to the next dot. As they got closer, Amy finally made contact with the survivors. The voice that came through the speakers was weak but clear, an alien speaking broken English learned from their intercepted transmissions. "Human ship, you came, we thought. No one heard our call?" "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the U.S. Valiant," Jake said into the microphone. "We're here to help." "How many survivors are there?" "Few, so few left, maybe 1,000, hiding in old library, The harvest, die, hunt us, kill everyone." Jake looked at his crew. They were just one small ship against an enemy that had destroyed an entire civilization. But they were human, and humans didn't abandon people in need. "We're coming to get you," he told the alien voice. "Hold on just a little longer." The real work was about to begin. The Valiant drifted silently through the asteroid field, its engines powered down to minimum. Jake Morrison watched the tactical display as the 12 harvest ships continued their systematic destruction of the planet below. Each ship moved with deadly purpose, like sharks circling wounded prey. "Captain, I'm getting a clearer picture of those ships," Ben Taylor reported from his engineering station. "They're not just big, they're using some kind of dark energy manipulation. It's like they bend space around them." Amy Clark looked up from her communications console. "The survivors are still transmitting?" "They're in the ruins of what used to be their great library. The signal is coming from about 50 kilometers underground." Jake studied the planet's surface through the view screen. What had once been a beautiful world was now a wasteland of fire and destruction. The Kaleri cities, which the aliens had described as crystalline spires reaching toward the sky, were now nothing but smoking craters. "How many harvest ships are in orbit?" he asked. 12 confirmed, Lisa Park answered from navigation. "Each one is approximately 15 kilometers long. They're taking turns bombarding different sections of the planet." Jake watched as one of the alien ships fired a weapon that looked like liquid darkness. Where it struck, the ground didn't just explode, it seemed to fold in on itself, creating a hole that went down for miles. This wasn't random destruction. The harvest was mining the planet, taking everything of value while killing anyone who got in their way. "Sir, I'm detecting smaller ships launching from the main vessels," Ben reported. "They look like hunter-killer craft. They're going down to the surface." "They're hunting the survivors," Jake said grimly. "Amy, tell the Kaleri we're coming down. We'll need coordinates for a safe landing site." The alien voice came through the speakers, weak but determined. "Human captain, dangerous. Harvest hunters everywhere. But we send coordinates, Oh. Mining tunnel 3 kilometers from library ruins. Jake turned to his crew. I'm taking a shuttle down with a small team. Lisa, you have the bridge. If those big ships detect us, get the Valiant out of here immediately. Sir, you should stay with the ship, Lisa protested. Let me take the team down. No, Jake said firmly. These people answered our call for help. I'm going to look them in the eye and tell them we're not giving up on them. 20 minutes later, Jake found himself in the cargo bay with Amy and 2 Marines, Sergeant Pete Collins and Corporal Maria Santos. Their shuttle was loaded with medical supplies and emergency rations, not much, but everything they could spare. The shuttle launched from the Valiant's bay and dropped toward the planet's surface. Jake piloted the small craft through the atmosphere, dodging debris from the orbital bombardment. The air was thick with smoke and ash, making it hard to see more than a few hundred meters ahead. Captain, I'm detecting movement, Amy said, watching her scanners. 3 objects approaching from the north. They're not showing up clearly on sensors. Jake saw them through the shuttle's windows, sleek, predatory craft that seemed to shimmer and bend light around them. The harvest hunters were closing in fast. Hold on, Jake said, pushing the shuttle into a steep dive. He flew between the ruins of what had once been a magnificent city, using the broken towers and collapsed bridges as cover. The harvest ships followed, their weapons firing bolts of that same dark energy. One blast struck a ruined building just meters from the shuttle. The entire structure simply vanished, leaving nothing but empty space. Jake realized that the harvest weapons didn't just destroy things, they erased them completely. There, Amy pointed to a gap in the rubble ahead. The tunnel entrance should be right there. Jake brought the shuttle down hard, its landing gear scraping against broken stone. The harvest hunters swooped overhead, their weapons charging for another attack. But Jake had already shut down the engines and activated the shuttle's camouflage system. Move fast, he told his team. We don't have much time. They grabbed their equipment and ran for the tunnel entrance. Behind them, the harvest ships circled like vultures, their sensors sweeping the area. But the tunnel was deep and well hidden. Carved from solid rock by generations of Kaleri miners, the team moved through the darkness, their helmet lights cutting through the gloom. The tunnel was filled with the sound of distant explosions as the orbital bombardment continued above. After what felt like hours, they reached a massive underground chamber. What Jake saw there took his breath away. The chamber had once been part of the great library, carved from living rock and filled with crystalline formations that glowed with soft light. But now it was a refugee camp. Hundreds of Kaleri huddled in small groups, their luminescent skin flickering with colors that Jake somehow knew meant fear and despair. The Kaleri were beautiful in a way that made Jake's heart ache. They were tall and graceful, with skin that shifted through different colors like living art. Their eyes were large and expressive, filled with an intelligence that spoke of centuries of peaceful civilization. An elderly Kaleri approached them, her skin glowing with soft blue patterns. When she spoke, her voice was musical, like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. I am Elder Zara, she said in careful English. You are the humans who heard our call. We did not think. We hoped, but we did not think anyone would come. Jake removed his helmet and looked into her large, gentle eyes. We're here to help. How many survivors are there? Perhaps 1,000, Zara replied, her skin shifting to darker shades. Once. We were millions. Our cities reached to the sky, our children played in floating gardens. Now, she gestured to the refugees around them. Now we are all that remains. Amy was already working with her translation equipment, trying to understand more of the Kaleri language. Elder Zara, can you tell us about the harvest? How long have they been here? The old alien's skin turned almost black. 7 days. They came without warning, their ships appearing like shadows in the night. We tried to communicate, to offer them what they wanted. But they do not communicate, they only take. Sergeant Collins set up a defensive perimeter while Corporal Santos distributed medical supplies. Jake watched the Kaleri children, small versions, Of the adults, their skin flickering with rainbow colors that somehow conveyed innocence and fear at the same time. Elder Zara, what do you know about the harvest? Where did they come from? They have consumed 17 worlds in our sector of the galaxy, she said. Each time they take everything, minerals, technology, even the people themselves. Some are killed, others are taken alive. We do not know why. Ben Taylor's voice crackled through Jake's radio. Captain, we're detecting increased activity from the harvest ships. They seem to be preparing for something big. Jake keyed his radio. What kind of activity? They're moving into a new formation. All 12 ships are positioning themselves around the planet. It looks like they're getting ready for a final bombardment. Jake felt his blood run cold. How long do we have? Maybe 6 hours, sir. After that, there won't be anything left of this world. Jake looked at Elder Zara and the 1,000 Kaleri refugees. His shuttle could maybe carry 50 people, and that was if they packed them in like cargo. There was no way to evacuate everyone in time. Elder Zara, we have a problem, he said gently. Our ship is too small to carry all of your people. But we've called for help. A human battle fleet is coming. How long? She asked. 3 days. The elder's skin went completely dark. We do not have 3 days. The harvest will finish their work tonight. Jake looked around the chamber at the beautiful, peaceful people who had never known war. They were artists and teachers, philosophers and dreamers. They had created wonders and explored the mysteries of the universe. And now they were going to die because they had never learned to fight. No, Jake said firmly. We're not going to let that happen. We're going to find a way to buy you more time. Amy looked up from her equipment. Captain, I'm getting a message from the Valiant. Admiral Walker's fleet has received our transmission. They're coming at maximum speed. How long? Jake asked. Still 3 days, sir, but they're bringing 47 warships. Elder Zara's skin flickered with what Jake was beginning to recognize as hope. Your people will fight for us? Even though we are strangers? Jake smiled. Lady, you just met humanity. We don't abandon people in need. Ever. Above them, the harvest ships continued their deadly work, preparing to finish what they had started. But for the first time in 7 days, the Kaleri had something they had almost forgotten: hope. The question was whether hope would be enough to keep them alive until the cavalry arrived. Admiral Chris Walker stood on the bridge of the UES Thunderstrike, reading the distress signal for the 3rd time. The message from Captain Morrison was clear and entire alien. Civilization was being wiped out by something called the Harvest. Walker had seen war before, had fought in battles that left entire star systems scarred, but this was different. This was genocide. Commander Sullivan, what's our current position? Walker asked his tactical officer. Kate Sullivan looked up from her displays. We're in the Proxima system, sir. All 47 ships of the 5th Fleet are ready for immediate deployment. Walker nodded. The 5th Fleet was humanity's finest battleships and cruisers that had been tested in the fires of the Centauri Wars. Each ship carried weapons designed by a species that had learned to survive on a world where everything tried to kill them. Set course for the Kepler 442 system. Maximum burn on all ships. Sir, that's 3 days at emergency speed, Kate reported. We'll be running our engines hot, but we can make it. Walker walked to the main view screen and looked out at his fleet. The Thunderstrike was the flagship, a massive battleship armed with plasma cannons and kinetic bombardment systems. Around it, the other ships of the fleet took formation, carriers loaded with fighters, cruisers bristling with missile pods, and destroyers built for speed and firepower. Sir, Kate said, I've been analyzing the data from Captain Morrison's ship. These harvest vessels are using technology we've never seen before. Their weapons seem to manipulate dark energy, and their hulls can regenerate damage. Walker smiled grimly. They've never fought humans before either. What do we know about their tactics? They seem to rely on overwhelming firepower and superior technology. They attack peaceful civilizations that can't fight back. According to the Kaleri transmissions, they've destroyed 17 worlds without ever facing real resistance. That's about to change, Walker said. Signal all ships. I want a full tactical briefing in 1 hour. The fleet's captains gathered in the Thunderstrike's conference room via hologram. Walker recognized each face. These were men and women who had fought beside him in humanity's darkest hours. Captain Ryan Murphy commanded the carrier group, his ships loaded with fighters trained in combat techniques that would make ancient Earth warriors proud. Colonel Lisa Rodriguez led the Marine contingent, soldiers who had trained in gravity 3 times what most aliens could survive. Ladies and gentlemen, Walker began, we're facing an enemy that has never lost a battle. They've consumed 17 civilizations and think they're unstoppable. They're about to learn why you don't mess with Deathworlders. He activated the holographic display, showing the Harvest ships in orbit around the dying Kaleri world. These vessels are large and powerful, but they have weaknesses. Chief Engineer Paul Anderson has been analyzing their energy signatures. Paul Anderson, Walker's senior engineer, stood up. Admiral, their dark energy systems are impressive, but they're also predictable. They rely on brute force rather than tactical innovation. Our plasma cannons should be able to burn through their shields, and our kinetic weapons can punch holes in anything. Captain Murphy leaned forward. What about their regenerative hulls? That's where sustained fire comes in, Paul explained. They can repair damage, but not faster than we can cause it. If we hit them hard and keep hitting them, they'll go down. Walker nodded. The plan is simple. We don't engage in honorable single combat. We use every dirty trick humanity has ever learned. Captain Murphy, your fighters will swarm their ships and exploit their blind spots. Colonel Rodriguez, your Marines will board their vessels and show them what hand-to-hand combat really means. Lisa Rodriguez smiled. My people have been training for this their whole lives, sir. These aliens have never faced an enemy that considers pain a teaching tool. What about their numbers? Asked Captain Sarah Davis from the cruiser UES Devastator. 12 ships against 47 doesn't seem like good odds for them. Walker's expression darkened. Don't underestimate them. Each of those ships is the size of a small moon. But they've made one critical mistake. They've never fought a species that evolved to be predators. The briefing continued for 2 hours, covering every aspect of the upcoming battle. Walker's plan was complex but brutal, a multi-vector assault. That would exploit every weakness the Harvest ships had. The aliens had grown overconfident from centuries of easy victories. They were about to face an enemy that had learned warfare in the school of survival. As the fleet raced through space toward the Kaleri system, Walker received regular updates from Captain Morrison. The situation on the ground was desperate. The Harvest ships were preparing for a final bombardment that would sterilize the planet completely. Admiral, Kate Sullivan reported, we're receiving a transmission from the Harvest fleet. They're broadcasting on all frequencies. Put it through. Walker ordered. The voice that filled the bridge was cold and mechanical, speaking English with perfect pronunciation. Human vessels, you are entering a restricted zone. The species known as Kaleri have been marked for harvesting. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. Walker stepped forward. This is Admiral Chris Walker of the Terran Defense Force. You have 10 minutes to withdraw from this system. This is your only warning. The response came as a sound that chilled the blood of every human who heard it, a noise that could only be described as laughter. When the alien voice spoke again, it was filled with contempt. Foolish creatures, we have consumed 17 worlds. We have faced the greatest military powers in this sector. What can one primitive species hope to accomplish against the might of the Harvest? Walker looked at his officers, seeing the same cold anger in their eyes that he felt in his heart. They want to know what humans can do? Show them. The Harvest ships responded to Walker's ultimatum with a massive energy discharge, a weapon that could have vaporized an entire fleet of Kaleri vessels. The beam struck the Thunderstrike's shields and dissipated harmlessly, absorbed by defensive systems designed to withstand solar flares and asteroid impacts. Interesting, Walker said calmly. Kate, target their lead ship, all weapons. Sir, we're still 2 hours out of optimal firing range, Kate replied. I'm not planning to destroy them yet, Walker smiled. I'm planning to get their attention. The Thunderstrike's main guns opened fire, sending streams of superheated plasma across space. The bolts struck the nearest Harvest ship, causing its hull to flare with dark energy as it absorbed the impact. The alien vessel seemed to shrug off the attack, but Walker wasn't finished. All ships open fire? Show them what human weapons can do. 47 ships unleashed hell across the void. Plasma cannons, missile batteries, and kinetic weapons filled space with deadly energy. The Harvest ships activated their shields and returned fire, but something had changed. For the first time in their long history of conquest, they were fighting an enemy that shot back. The battle lines were drawn. On one side, 12 ships that had never known defeat, powered by technology that bent the laws of physics. On the other side, 47 vessels crewed by the descendants of a species that had clawed its way to the top of the food chain on a world that tried to kill everything that lived on it. Sir, Kate reported, the Harvest ships are moving to intercept. They're abandoning their bombardment of the planet. Walker nodded with satisfaction. Good, that buys Captain Morrison more time to evacuate the survivors. The Harvest fleet began to move with deadly grace, their ships flowing through space like living things, their weapons charged with dark energy, ready to unleash destruction on a scale that had wiped out entire civilizations. But Admiral Walker had spent his entire life preparing for this moment. He had trained on a world where the weather could kill, where the animals were all predators, where only the strongest and smartest survived. The Harvest had never faced anything like humanity. All ships, Battle Formation Alpha, Walker ordered. Let's show them what Deathworlders can do. The two fleets raced toward each other across the void, carrying the hopes and fears of two very different species. The Harvest ships moved with the confidence of predators who had never met their match. The human fleet advanced with the deadly purpose of protectors defending their pack. The battle for the Kaleri system was about to begin, and the galaxy would never be the same. The first shots of the Battle of Kaleri lit up the darkness of space like a second sun. Admiral Walker watched from the bridge of the Thunderstrike as his fleet engaged the Harvest ships in the most brutal fight humanity had ever seen. The alien vessels were massive and powerful, but they had never faced an enemy that fought like wolves. All fighters, launch immediately, Walker ordered. Captain Murphy, show them what Earth tactics can do. From the human carriers, hundreds of small fighter craft poured out like angry wasps. Each pilot had trained since childhood in combat maneuvers that would have killed most alien species. They dove at the Harvest ships in coordinated attacks. Using techniques learned from centuries of aerial warfare, the Harvest vessels tried to track the fighters with their weapons, but the human pilots were too fast and too smart. They used the debris field around the planet as cover, flying between chunks of destroyed cities and broken satellites. When the alien ships fired their dark energy weapons, the fighters were already gone, striking from a different angle. Direct hit on the lead ship, reported Kate Sullivan from her tactical station. Fighter Squadron 7 just took out one of their shield generators, Walker smiled grimly. Good, keep the pressure on them. The Harvest ships were learning that their usual tactics didn't work against humans. They were used to fighting civilizations that stood still and fought honorably. The human fighters attacked like predators, hitting weak points and retreating before the enemy could respond. But the real surprise came when Colonel Rodriguez's Marines launched their boarding pods. The small armored vehicles shot across space like bullets, punching through the Harvest ships' hulls with brute force. Inside each pod were 12 human soldiers, trained in zero-gravity combat and armed with weapons designed for one purpose: killing. Boarding Party Alpha has breached the nearest Harvest ship, Rodriguez reported over the radio. We're encountering resistance. Walker knew what that meant. The Marines were face-to-face with the Harvest themselves, and both sides were learning what the other was made of. Inside the alien ship, Sergeant Mike Davis led his squad through corridors that seemed to shift and change around them. The walls were made of some organic material that pulsed with dark energy. Everything about the ship felt alive and wrong. "Stay together," Davis told his men. "These things might be advanced, but they bleed just like everything else." The first harvest warrior they encountered was 7 feet tall, with a body like a giant insect. Its skin was black as space, and its eyes were compound structures that reflected light like mirrors. It had 4 arms, each ending in razor-sharp claws, and it moved with the fluid grace of a natural predator. The creature attacked without warning, its claws slashing through the air where Davis had been standing a moment before. But the Marine had already rolled to the side, his rifle firing armor-piercing rounds that punched through the alien's exoskeleton. "They're fast," Davis reported, "but they're not used to fighting something that fights back." The battle inside the harvest ship was brutal and close. The aliens were perfectly adapted for overwhelming weaker species, but they had never faced enemies who considered pain a teaching tool. The Marines advanced through the ship's corridors like wolves among sheep, their weapons designed not for stunning or capture but for absolute destruction. "The aliens are pulling back," reported Corporal Janet Lee. "They're not used to this kind of fighting." Outside, the space battle continued with increasing intensity. The harvest ships were powerful, but Admiral Walker had turned the entire star system into a killing field. Human ships emerged from behind asteroids and debris, having used the oldest tactic in the book, the ambush. "Target their engines," Walker ordered. "Don't let them retreat." Chief Engineer Paul Anderson had been right about the harvest technology. Their dark energy systems were impressive, but they were also predictable. The human plasma cannons burned through their shields like fire through paper, and the kinetic weapons hit with the force of asteroids. The lead harvest ship tried to retreat, but Walker had anticipated this. The destroyer UES Lightning appeared directly in its path, firing everything it had at the alien vessel's engines. The dark energy core inside the ship began to overload, sending waves of unstable energy through its hull. "All ships, concentrate fire on the damaged vessel," Walker commanded. "Don't give them time to repair." The human fleet poured fire into the wounded harvest ship. Plasma bolts, missiles, and kinetic rounds hammered its hull without mercy. The alien vessel's regenerative systems tried to keep up, but they couldn't repair damage faster than the humans could cause it. With a flash of dark energy, the first harvest ship died. Its core imploded, taking a section of the asteroid field with it. The explosion was visible from the planet's surface, a bright star that told the Calari survivors that someone was fighting for them. "1 down, 11 to go," Walker said. "All ships target the next vessel," but the harvest was learning too. The remaining ships changed their formation, using their superior size and firepower to create a defensive wall. They fired their weapons in coordinated volleys, filling space with beams of dark energy that could erase anything they touched. The human cruiser used Defiant, took a direct hit, and simply vanished, along with its crew of 300. The destroyer used Storm was caught in a crossfire and torn apart, its hull peeling away like the skin of an orange. "Sir, we're taking heavy casualties," Kate Sullivan reported. "The enemy is adapting to our tactics." Walker felt the weight of command settle on his shoulders. Every ship he lost meant hundreds of human lives, brave men and women who had followed him into battle. But he also thought about the Calari survivors hiding underground, and the 17 worlds that had already been consumed by the harvest. "Signal all ships," Walker said. "Execute Battle Plan Omega." Battle Plan Omega was humanity's most desperate tactic, a coordinated assault that would either destroy the enemy or get them all killed trying. Every ship in the fleet would charge the harvest vessels at maximum speed, firing everything they had. "Sir, that's a suicide run," Kate protested. "No," Walker said firmly. "It's what we do when there's no other choice. We don't abandon people in need." The human fleet turned toward the harvest ships and accelerated. 45 vessels against 11 alien monsters, racing toward each other across the void. The harvest ships fired everything they had, their weapons creating a wall of death that no sane species would try to cross. But humans weren't sane. They were the descendants of a species that had learned to survive on a world where everything tried to kill them. They had faced ice ages and asteroid impacts, plagues and wars, and had come through stronger each time. The fleet hit the harvest line like a hammer blow. Ship after ship broke through the alien formation, their weapons firing at point-blank range. The harvest vessels were powerful, but they had never faced an enemy willing to die to protect strangers. Captain Murphy's fighters swarmed through the chaos, their pilots pulling maneuvers that would have killed normal humans. They struck at the harvest ships' weapon systems, creating gaps in their defenses that the larger vessels could exploit. Colonel Rodriguez's Marines fought inside 3 different alien ships now, their battles spreading through the organic corridors like a virus. Each squad of 12 humans was worth 100 alien warriors, not because of their equipment but because of their training and determination. The harvest ships are breaking formation, Kate reported. They're trying to retreat. Walker watched. As the surviving alien vessels began to pull back, their dark energy systems overloading from the sustained assault. For the first time in their history, the Harvest had met an enemy they couldn't defeat. "Don't let them escape," Walker ordered. "If even one ship gets away, it might bring back more." The human fleet pursued the retreating Harvest vessels, harrying them like wolves chasing wounded prey. One by one, the alien ships fell, their dark energy cores imploding in brilliant flashes of light. When the last Harvest ship died, the Calari system fell silent except for the crackling of cooling metal and the whispered prayers of the survivors on the planet below. The battle was over, but Admiral Walker knew that the war had just begun. The galaxy had learned that humanity would fight for strangers, and that was a lesson that would change everything. The last Harvest ship died in a blaze of nuclear fire. Admiral Walker watched from the bridge of the Thunderstrike as the alien vessel's dark energy core collapsed, taking half an asteroid field with it. The explosion lit up the system like a dying star, and then there was silence. "All stop," Walker ordered. "Damage reports from all ships." The cost of victory was written in the faces of his surviving crew. They had started the battle with 47 ships. Now only 31 remained, and most of those were damaged. The destroyer used Storm was gone, along with the cruiser U.S. Defiant. 800 human souls had died to save a species they had never met. "Sir," Kate Sullivan reported, "we're receiving a transmission from Captain Morrison on the surface." Jake Morrison's voice came through the speakers, tired but triumphant. "Admiral, we've got about 900 Calari survivors ready for evacuation. They're asking if the battle is really over." Walker looked out at the debris field that had once been the Harvest fleet. "Tell them it's over, Captain. The threat is eliminated." But even as he said the words, Walker knew it wasn't true. The Harvest ships they had destroyed were just a scouting force. His intelligence officers had found data in the wreckage that painted a much darker picture. The main Harvest armada was somewhere in the galactic core, thousands of ships consuming entire star systems to fuel their expansion. "Admiral," Colonel Rodriguez reported from the Marine Command Center, "we've completed our sweep of the Harvest ships. We found some disturbing information." Walker made his way to the briefing room, where his senior officer waiting. The holographic display showed star charts marked with red dots, each one representing a world that had been consumed by the Harvest. "The aliens we fought here were just the advance guard," Rodriguez explained. "According to their data, the main Harvest fleet numbers in the thousands. They've been working their way through this section of the galaxy for over a century." Chief Engineer Paul Anderson pulled up technical schematics. "Their technology is more advanced than anything we've seen. These ships we destroyed were powered by portable dark energy generators. The main fleet has access to something much worse. They can actually harvest the energy from stars." Walker felt a chill run down his spine. "How many worlds have they consumed?" "Over 300 confirmed," Kate Sullivan answered. "Billions of lives, entire civilizations wiped out. The Calari were just the latest target." The meeting was interrupted by a soft chime from the communications system. Amy Clark's voice came through from the planet's surface. "Admiral, Elder Zara would like to speak with you." Walker activated the holographic communicator. The image of the elderly Kaleri appeared, her luminescent skin flickering with colors that somehow conveyed both gratitude and deep sadness. "Admiral Walker," she said in her musical voice, "we owe you a debt that can never be repaid. Your people fought and died for strangers. We have never seen such courage." "Elder Zara," Walker replied, "we couldn't stand by and watch innocent people be slaughtered. That's not who we are." The alien leader's skin shifted to deeper blue tones. "We have learned much from watching your warriors fight. For centuries, we believed that violence was always wrong, that there was no problem that could not be solved through peaceful discussion. We were fools." Walker shook his head. "You weren't fools, you were optimists. The galaxy needs more species. Like yours, not fewer." Perhaps," Zara said, "but optimism without the strength to defend it is just another form of suicide. We are artists and philosophers, Admiral. We create beauty and seek knowledge. But we have learned that someone must be willing to fight for those things, or they will be destroyed by those who value only power." Over the next several hours, Walker coordinated the evacuation of the Kaleri survivors. The human ships were crowded, but his crews made room for the refugees. The aliens were amazed by human generosity. Even after losing friends and comrades in battle, the humans shared their food, their quarters, and their medical supplies. Captain Morrison brought Elder Zara aboard the Thunderstrike for the journey. To Earth, the old alien spent hours talking with the human crew, learning about their history and their culture. She was particularly interested in their art and music, finding it strange that the same species that fought so fiercely could also create such beauty. "Your people are a contradiction," she told Walker during one of their conversations. "You are capable of great violence, but also great compassion. How do you balance these two sides of your nature?" Walker thought for a moment. "We fight because we have to, not because we want to. Every human soldier knows that the purpose of war is to create a world where war is no longer necessary." The journey to Earth took 2 weeks. During that time, Walker received reports from across human space. The news of the battle had spread quickly, and the reaction was mixed. Some colonies celebrated humanity's victory over an alien threat. Others worried that the humans had painted a target on every human world. "Admiral," Kate Sullivan reported, "Earth Command is requesting a full briefing on the harvest threat. They want to know if we should expect retaliation." Walker looked at the star charts showing the vast extent of harvest territory. "Tell them we should expect everything. The main fleet will come eventually. When they do, we need to be ready." As the fleet approached Earth, Walker made a decision that would change the course of human history. He called a meeting of all surviving ship captains and presented them with a proposal. "The harvest will return," he said. "When they do, they'll bring thousands of ships. We can't fight them alone, and we can't protect every world in human space. But we can do something else. We can build an alliance." The plan was ambitious. Earth would offer protection to any species threatened by the harvest, but in return, those species would contribute to a common defense. The Kaleri had advanced scientific knowledge. Other species might have different strengths, manufacturing capability, raw materials, or strategic locations. "We're talking about creating a galactic government," Captain Murphy pointed out. "That's never been done before." "It's never been necessary before," Walker replied. "The harvest has made it necessary. We either stand together or we fall separately." When the fleet reached Earth, Walker presented his proposal to the planetary government. The debate lasted for weeks, but eventually the Terran Defense Coalition was born. Elder Zara became the first non-human member of the Coalition Council, representing not just the Kaleri but all species threatened by the harvest. The Kaleri survivors were given sanctuary on Earth while their scientists worked alongside human engineers to develop new weapons and defenses. Their knowledge of crystalline technology combined with human manufacturing capability produced innovations that neither species could have achieved alone. Jake Morrison was promoted to admiral and given command of the new coalition fleet. His first mission was to make contact with other species in the region, offering them protection in exchange for alliance. Some accepted immediately, having heard the stories of human courage at the Battle of Caleri. Others were more cautious, unsure whether humanity could be trusted, but word spread quickly through the galaxy. The species that had evolved on a death world had defeated the Harvest. For the first time in a century, there was hope that the tide of destruction could be turned. Elder Zara stood on the observation deck of the new coalition headquarters, looking out at the construction yards where human and alien workers labored, side by side. The ships they were building were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen, vessels that combined the best of multiple species technologies. "Do you think we can win?" she asked Walker, who had joined her at the window. Walker watched as a new battleship took shape, its hull gleaming with both human armor and Caleri crystal matrices. "I think we're going to try, and sometimes that's enough." The Harvest would return eventually. When they did, they would find a galaxy that had learned to fight back. The Deathworlders had been unleashed, and they had taught others to be strong. The universe would never be the same.